ask that you do all you can to support the proposed constitutional amendment by donating of your means and time to preserve the sacred institution of marriage.
Means and time is part of a vow ceremony that Mormons perform in the temple, where we promise to give of our means and our time to defend the church and to forward its mission. And we're told that we will lose our eternal salvation if we don't keep that promise. So when Mormons heard means and time in their prophet's call, it was like code. They got the message.
For most Americans and most of the world, November 4th, 2008 will be remembered as the night Barack Obama was elected president. But if you're gay or support equal rights, you know that something terrible happened that night that almost took the air out of all that joy and optimism. It was the passing of Proposition 8, an anti-gay constitutional amendment declaring that only marriages between a man and a woman are legal in California, invalidating an earlier California Supreme Court ruling that banning gay marriage was unconstitutional. How could this have happened in America's most liberal state? The biggest culprit was the Mormon Church, which flooded California with money and manpower, often illegally due to the church's tax-exempt status. The true extent of Mormons' unprecedented involvement in Prop 8 has been a closely guarded secret. That is, it was until the release of the new documentary, 8, The Mormon Proposition. When the California Supreme Court issued its ruling in the summer of 2008, the Mormon Church sprang into action. The makers of 8 got a hold of a secret recorded statement from Mormon leaders, telling followers around the world that they had to do whatever they could to ensure Prop 8 passed. And this was no mere suggestion. Mormons believe that their leaders talked directly to God, and using coded language, they essentially threatened Mormons' eternal souls if they didn't give their time and money to ban gay marriage. And since the Mormon Church demands absolute obedience to church leaders, and the church knew how much its members could give through tithing records, money and volunteers poured in for signature gatherers, phone banking and canvassing, and a slew of dishonest ads claiming Prop 8 was about religious freedom and protecting children. However, Mormon leaders recognized that their church was seen as a weirdo fringe sect by most Americans, so they were careful to hide their involvement through AstroTurf front groups like the National Organization for Marriage. But the Mormon Church's hatred towards gays goes way deeper than the scattered Bible verses most Christian fundamentalists spew as proof that God hates gays. That's because Mormons believe that to get into the highest level of heaven, you have to be spiritually wedded or sealed to someone of the opposite sex, so you can have a spirit family in heaven. It's acceptable for a man to be sealed to multiple women, which creates the basis of the Mormon Church's tradition of polygamy. So essentially, homosexuality and especially gay marriage are seen as attacks on Mormons' concept of the afterlife and a threat to the religion as a whole. But in the end, what's at risk is not the Mormon religion, religious freedom, or cultural morality, but the lives of actual people. In addition to gay couples who are deprived of their right to marry, the film introduces you to people like Linda Stay, a former Mormon who was essentially cut off from her family and the church because she supported her gay son's right to marry. Even more disturbing is the fact that Utah has the highest suicide rate in the country amongst young men, due in large part to the church's zero-tolerance policy towards gays, where one of the church's apostles even told Mormon youth that it's better to be dead than gay, and gay Mormons feel they have to choose between their faith and family and being true to themselves. There's also an interview with a man who tells a chilling story of essentially being tortured while at Utah's Brigham Young University in an attempt to convert him from gay to straight. The Mormon Church took a massive PR hit when its involvement in Prop 8 was revealed, with protests outside Mormon temples, a movement to repeal their tax-exempt status, and a recent, albeit meager, fine for failing to report non-monetary contributions. Because of this pressure, the Mormon Church recently came out supporting an anti-discrimination law in Utah, and allegedly have said they'll keep their noses out of future gay marriage campaigns. But don't be so sure. When you have leaders who claim to speak for God and people willing to follow them without question, any amount of hateful, hypocritical, dishonest crap is possible. Let's remember that the Mormons were persecuted for decades for their beliefs on marriage. And if there is a God, the idea that he'd want his followers to lie to voters and that he'd care more about who we have sex with than what kind of people we are is simply insane. But Mormons are not. Gay marriage is going to be legalized, and the Mormon Church, which didn't even allow black priests until 1978, will be on the wrong side of history yet again. I'm Jonathan Kim, and this is a ReThink Review.